You are under attack, not by the world, not by your enemies, not by your circumstances. You are under attack by your own mind. And the worst part is most people never realize it until their life is already falling apart. They think the problem is bad luck. They think the problem is stress. They think the problem is other people. But the real war starts much deeper than that. It starts in the private moments. The moments when no one is watching. The moments when your alarm goes off and your mind says, sleep a little more. The moments when you should work, but your mind says, do it later. The moments when you should push harder, but your mind says, this is enough. That's where your life is being decided, not in public, in private, not when people are cheering for you, when nobody cares. Because your future is not built by what you say you want. It is built by what you obey every single day. And if you keep obeying weakness, comfort, fear, and distraction, then don't be surprised when your life stays average. Because the truth is brutal. Most people are not losing because they are untalented. They are losing because their mind has been hijacked. Hijacked by comfort. Hijacked by laziness. Hijacked by doubt. Hijacked by excuses that sound smart enough to believe. That's how the attack works. It doesn't always come with panic. Sometimes it comes as procrastination. Sometimes it comes as overthinking. Sometimes it comes as fake exhaustion. Sometimes it comes as, I'll start tomorrow. And that is why it's dangerous. Because the enemy doesn't always look like pain. Sometimes the enemy looks like comfort. And comfort will destroy your life if you let it. Comfort makes you weak. Comfort makes you soft. Comfort makes you accept less than what you are capable of. Comfort teaches you to run from struggle instead of growing through it. And if you keep choosing comfort, one day you'll wake up and realize you trade your potential for temporary relief. That should scare you. Because there is nothing more painful than knowing you could have become more, but didn't. Not because you lacked talent. Not because you lacked opportunity. But because you kept surrendering to the weakest voice in your head. That voice is always there. The voice that says, you can skip today. You deserve a break. It's too hard. You're too tired. You're not ready. You can do it later. That voice has ruined more dreams than failure ever could. Because failure can teach you. Pain can sharpen you. Pressure can build you. But a weak mind keeps you stuck in the same place for years. That's the real prison. Not your job. Not your situation. Not your past. Your prison is the version of you that keeps choosing what feels easy over what will make you stronger. And if you don't confront that version of yourself, your life will never change. You can watch all the motivation you want. You can set goals. You can make plans. You can talk about becoming better. But if you still bow down to weakness every day, then none of it matters. Because change doesn't happen when you feel inspired. Change happens when you stop negotiating with your excuses. That's where power begins. The moment you stop asking your feelings for permission. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready. The moment you decide that your mission matters more than your mood. That is the moment your life starts to shift. Because discipline is not about doing what feels good. Discipline is about doing what must be done, especially when you don't feel like it. That's what separates dangerous people from average people. Average people are controlled by emotion. Dangerous people are controlled by standards. Average people need motivation. Dangerous people rely on structure. Average people stop when it gets uncomfortable. Dangerous people know discomfort is the price of growth. So, if your mind has been attacking you, fight back. Fight back by getting up when you said you would. Fight back by doing the work when you don't feel like it. Fight back by keeping promises to yourself. Fight back by staying locked in when your mind wants to wander. Fight back by becoming the kind of person who does not fold under pressure. Because every time you resist weakness, you get stronger. Every time you reject excuses, you get sharper. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you take your power back. That is how the war is won. Not in one giant moment. In small daily victories. In the decision to stay focused. In the decision to keep going. In the decision to suffer with purpose instead of living with regret. That's what most people don't understand. Pain is coming either way. You can feel the pain of discipline. Or you can feel the pain of staying the same. You can feel the pain of sacrifice. or you can feel the pain of wasted potential. You can feel the pain of growth, or the pain of regret. Either way, you will suffer. So choose the suffering that builds you. Choose the suffering that sharpens your mind. Choose the suffering that creates a version of you that no longer breaks under pressure. Because life does not reward fragile people. Life rewards people who can carry weight, people who can stay calm in chaos, people who can move when they're tired, people who can keep going when the easy option is to quit. That is mental toughness. And mental toughness is not something you are born with. It is built when you get up early and do what needs to be done. Built when you train your body even when your mind is complaining. Built when you stay focused while the world is drowning in distraction. Built when you suffer in silence and still keep moving. That's how you become different. That's how you become dangerous. That's how you become the person your weaker self is afraid of. So stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop acting like your mind is supposed to be easy to control. It's not. That's why most people fail. Because controlling your mind is one of the hardest things you will ever do. But it is also one of the most important. Because once you own your mind, you own your actions. Once you own your actions, you own your habits. Once you own your habits, you own your future. That is why this fight matters. This is not just about being motivated for one day. This is about becoming someone your excuses can no longer control. Someone your fear can no longer manipulate. Someone your comfort can no longer weaken. Your mind is under attack every single day. By distraction, by fear, by doubt, by comfort, by weakness. So the question is not whether the war is real. The question is, are you finally ready to fight back? Because the moment you stop surrendering to the weakest part of yourself, the strongest part of you finally gets a chance to live. Most people don't lose the war in one day. They lose it in pieces. A little discipline lost here. A little focus lost there. A few promises broken. A few excuses repeated. A few moments of weakness obeyed. And before they know it, they are living a life they never meant to build. That's how dangerous the mind is when it is left untrained. Because an untrained mind does not protect your future. It protects your comfort. It protects your habits. It protects a version of you that wants to stay safe, invisible, and unchanged. That's why every time you try to level up, you feel resistance. Every time you try to wake up earlier, your mind fights you. Every time you try to stay disciplined, your mind negotiates. Every time you try to do something hard, your mind suddenly becomes reasonable. It says, you can do it tomorrow. It says, you've already done enough. It says, take it easy today. But if you listen closely, that voice is not trying to help you. It is trying to keep you exactly where you are. Weak, comfortable, predictable, average. And if you don't call it out, you will mistake self-sabotage for self-care. That is one of the biggest lies of this generation. People have become so addicted to protecting their feelings that they no longer know how to build strength. The second something gets uncomfortable, they retreat. The second life gets heavy, they shut down. The second pressure shows up, they fold. And then they wonder why they don't trust themselves. Why would you trust yourself? If you keep abandoning yourself the moment things get hard, self-confidence is not built by saying nice things in the mirror. It is built by proving to yourself that you can be trusted under pressure. That when your mind says quit, you keep moving. That when your body feels tired, you still execute. That when life becomes inconvenient, you do not disappear. That is where self-respect is built. And without self-respect, you will always struggle to become who you say you want to be. Because deep down, you won't believe yourself. You'll keep saying, this time I'm serious. But your mind will remember every time you gave up before, every time you delayed, every time you folded, every time you chose comfort over commitment. And your identity is built from those receipts. That's why this battle is bigger than motivation. This is identity work. This is where you decide who you really are. Are you the person who talks about discipline, or the person who lives it? Are you the person who wants greatness, or the person who can endure the pain that greatness requires? Because everybody wants a reward. Very few want to wait. Everybody wants to be respected. Very few want to earn that respect in the dark. Everybody wants to feel powerful. Very few are willing to suffer long enough to become powerful. That is why the mind attacks you hardest when you're trying to grow. Because growth requires the death of your old self. The old you want to survive. The old you wants the easy route. The old you want excuses, shortcuts, distractions, and comfort. But the new you is built through resistance. The new you is built through repetition. The new you is built when you stop listening to every emotion that shows up. You have to understand something. Not every thought deserves your obedience. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel weak doesn't mean you are weak. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you should stop. Just because you feel tired doesn't mean you're done. A lot of people are being controlled by feelings they were never supposed to obey. That's why their life keeps shrinking. That's why their standards keep dropping. That's why they keep becoming less than what they could be. You cannot build a strong life with a soft mind. You cannot build greatness with weak habits. And you cannot become unstoppable if you keep stopping every time things get difficult. So what do? You stop making every decision based on emotion. You create rules. You create standards. You create non-negotiables. You become the kind of person who says, I do this no matter how I feel. That is power. That is freedom. Because once your life is no longer controlled by your moods, you become dangerous. Now you are no longer easy to break. Now you are no longer easy to distract. Now you are no longer a slave to temporary feelings. That is when your life starts changing fast. Because real transformation begins the moment your standards become stronger than your excuses. And once that happens, everything changes. The way you wake up changes. The way you work changes. The way you carry pain changes. The way you respond to stress changes. You stop acting like every hard moment is a crisis, and you start treating hardship like training. That's what it is. Training. Every difficult morning is training. Every urge to quit is training. Every lonely grind is training. Every moment you want to escape, but choose to stay locked in anyway. That is mental warfare. And that is how warriors are built. So if your mind is attacking you, good. That means there is something in you worth attacking. That means there is a stronger version of you trying to come alive. But it will never come alive if you keep feeding weakness. You have to starve the weak version of yourself. Starve the excuses. Starve the laziness. Starve the overthinking. Starve the comfort addiction. And feed the disciplined version instead. Feed the version that gets up. Feed the version that follows through. Feed the version that keeps going when it's hard. Because every day you do that, you are not just improving. You are taking your life back. And once you take your mind back, you become a problem for anything that tried to break you. You don't need a new life. You need a new level of control. Because the truth is, most people are not destroyed by tragedy. They are destroyed by lack of discipline. Not because life was impossible, but because they never became strong enough to face it. They kept waiting for motivation. They kept hoping for the perfect time. They kept telling themselves, one day I'll change. But one day never comes for people who keep negotiating with weakness. That's the danger. Weakness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks normal. It looks like sleeping in. It looks like wasting time. It looks like talking big and doing little. It looks like knowing exactly what needs to be done and still not doing it. That is how your potential dies. Not in fire, in delay, in hesitation, in excuses repeated so many times they start sounding true. And every time you ignore what you know you should do, you lose a piece of yourself, a piece of confidence, a piece of trust, a piece of power. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize the hardest part isn't the world outside. It's the war inside. That is why discipline is everything. Discipline is how you build a mind that doesn't collapse when life gets heavy. Discipline is how you become reliable to yourself. Discipline is how you stop being ruled by comfort, emotion, and fear. Because if you can't command yourself, you will always be commanded by something weaker, by distraction, by doubt, by pleasure, by the easy way out. And those things will never build the life you want. They will only keep you entertained while your future slowly disappears. That should hit you hard, because time is not waiting for you to get serious. Your excuses are not slowing the clock down. Every day you stay mentally weak, your potential keeps getting buried deeper. So enough waiting, enough talking, enough feeling sorry for yourself. This is the moment to decide who you are, not when life gets easier, not when you feel more confident. Now, while it's hard, while you're tired, while your mind is still fighting you, that is where real change begins. Not when the battle is gone, but when you choose to win it anyway. So get up, get focused, get disciplined, and stop asking your emotions how they feel about the mission. Your mission doesn't care if you're tired. Your goals don't care if you're uncomfortable. Your future doesn't care how many excuses you have. It only responds to action, relentless action, focused action, disciplined action. That is how you fight back. That is how you reclaim your mind. That is how you become someone who no longer folds under pressure. Because once you learn to control your mind, you become dangerous. And once you become dangerous, life has a much harder time defeating you. So remember this, your mind is under attack every single day. And every single day, you have two choices. Surrender to the weaker voice, or become the person that voice is afraid of. The war is already happening. Now fight back. This is your final warning. If you keep living the way you've been living, nothing changes. Not your body, not your mindset, not your habits, not your future. You cannot keep feeding weakness and expect strength to appear. You cannot keep choosing comfort and expect greatness to find you. And you cannot keep running from pressure while praying for a powerful life. It doesn't work like that. At some point, you have to decide, do you want a life that feels easy or a life that means something? Because those are not the same thing. A meaningful life will demand pain. It will demand sacrifice. It will demand discipline when you don't feel like being disciplined. It will demand that you keep moving when your mind is begging you to stop. That is the price. And if you are not willing to pay that price, then stop lying to yourself about the life you want. But if you are serious, if you are truly done being controlled by fear, distraction, excuses, and comfort, then prove it. Not with words, not with motivation, with action, real action, the kind of action that hurts, the kind of action that builds self-respect, the kind of action that turns you into someone your old self wouldn't even recognize. Because at the end of the day, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to hand you discipline. Nobody is coming to drag greatness out of you. That is your responsibility. That is your burden. That is your fight. So fight. Fight for your future. Fight for your standards. Fight for the person you know you are capable of becoming. And most of all, fight for control of your own mind. Because once your mind is yours again, everything changes. Your habits change. Your energy changes. Your confidence changes. Your life changes. This is where the weak version of you ends. This is where the stronger version begins. No more excuses. No more waiting. No more surrender. Your mind is under attack. Now it's time to become the one thing your weakness can no longer survive. A disciplined human being. And once you become that, there is very little in this world that can stop you.